We had to make some changes in terms of the deposit, the expectations that would be very different for a student than for someone older. And then I think I was the pioneer in this endeavor, and we welcomed a young woman into our home in February of 2019. And at the time, she was a student at Mission College and she was working 2 jobs. My husband and I were both working and our kids were all out. And then there was a pandemic. And her school closed and her jobs closed and we started working at home, and it was a very different experience than any of us had initially anticipated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very different for everybody, just a learning experience.
Absolutely.
And then how was your experience working with the staff?
Angela was fantastic, and before we even met the student who moved in with us, we went through the pretty lengthy questionnaire process to just be really clear about what we were looking for, and what we were looking for, frankly, was a short-term arrangement that we could help a student through at least a semester of school, with the hope that during that time of not paying any rent and really, having the opportunity to catch up a little bit, to be able to then move on to a more long-term setting. And in terms of the house sharing part, we also had the opportunity to say, which parts of our house we're sharing, what kind of, what the arrangement would look like. We had a downstairs room available that we set up for her. She had access to her own bathroom, shared the kitchen and laundry room spaces with us. And I would say the biggest, maybe a caveat or something to just pay attention to if you're thinking particularly about housing a student. First of all, I think it's a wonderful thing to do. Our experience was very positive, and I won't speak for the young woman, but I suspect that she would say the same thing. But once she was with us, I kind of had this idea, just as a mom and a teacher, that I would also somehow be a mentor to this young woman who had experienced many struggles, and could I help her kind of redirect her life, address some outstanding challenges. And I think that may have been more than she was expecting. And it left me almost with a feeling of disappointment in myself, that I wasn't able to do more to advance her life beyond living with us. And I really had to kind of reel back that expectation and remember that this is about house sharing. This really wasn't a mentoring or a fostering program. I wasn't meant to change or reshape or help her future direction, but literally to give her a safe and stable place to be for 6 months. And from that perspective, it worked very well. She was very respectful, very lovely. My daughters ended up coming home at different points, so she got to know them and connected very nicely with them. And I would be inclined to do this again.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it went well, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Do you see the house sharing program as beneficial, and how?
Oh, I think it's immensely beneficial, but I think it's also important to really have appropriate expectations. As I said, I think mine were a little bit different, but I think that the staff at Angela with the house sharing program made it very easy. For me, was very much on top of checking in both with me and with the young woman to make sure things were going well, to see if we needed to make any adjustments or if there were any conflict, and there truly weren't. She also had a case manager from Bill Wilson, which was a tremendous help as well, because they were giving her the mentorship and the guidance. They were also delivering during the pandemic when we couldn't leave, delivering groceries to her every couple of weeks, which was not something that we expected. And I was impressed with Bill Wilson's role in this as well. So I don't know why I'm feeling so speechless about this. I would absolutely strongly encourage it with these additional wrap services for students that need it, or with really a clear expectation of what you would each like to get out of this, and doing it and being clear, are we doing this for a semester, a year, until the student graduates from college? She did graduate from college while she was with us, and we did a graduation ceremony in the backyard. I'm sure not what she was expecting, not we were expecting to get into, but it was really lovely, and it felt really good to be able to do that for her.
Oh, well, that sounds very sweet. Sounds like you guys had a pretty good match, and I'm really happy to hear that. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
My pleasure. And if anyone has questions and wants to reach out to me, please reach out through my office, and I'm glad to share more detail or answer more specific questions about the experience. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. So some of you may be wondering, what is the house sharing program exactly? Well, we were established in 2018. Essentially, we match people looking for a room to rent with someone who has a spare bedroom in their home. The home provider themselves could be a homeowner, renting a home themselves, live in an apartment, or have an ADU. The requirement that we have is that each person in the home has to have their own private bedroom. No house sharing situation is alike. They are unique to each match. So just like Susan Ellenberg said earlier, with everything that happened, there were some changes. So now we are fully remote. We've added a member portal to our website exclusively for house sharing participants. So if you go on Catholic Charities, this is our website that you would see. Under the button for your account is where you would be able to sign in, and you'll be able to see some of our listings as well as additional resources that may benefit you. Once signed in, you can see a quick preview of what that looks like. For the sake of security, these are fake photos, but the prices are real to the rooms currently available in our program. As you can see, we do have different cities in the county. So that includes San Jose, Morgan Hill, San Jose, and Los Gatos. As I rendered through the program, you'd be able to scroll through and see the available listings. Some of them do have a direct contact in the Los Gatos example. They do have their emails. Others would prefer that you reach out to your housing specialist. So if you were interested in, let's say the San Jose one here, you can reach out to your housing specialist and we will help you get in connection with them. While we can continue talking about the program and how great it is, we think it'd be better to hear from current program clients who have been matched. So today we'll be hearing from Tony and Hella, as well as Bruce and Vivian. Unfortunately, Tony and Hella were not able to attend, but they were more than gracious enough to send us a video about their experience with the house sharing program.
I have no sound.
Okay, give me 1 second.
And since then, we have had many different people, some just for a few weeks or months, or some already for years or so.
Yeah, and our experience with the program really started after COVID. So we started working with Catholic Charities when we, after our previous housemate left, and we were looking for a new person to come and use our spare room. And COVID had already started happening, so we were very, very cautious about the whole process. And what was really good was working with Angela at Catholic Charities was a delight, because she was very responsive to our needs. And when she found the person, we spent some time with our our new housemate talking about COVID procedures and found that we were pretty compatible. She was also pretty careful. We talked about what kind of procedure we do around house cleaning, wearing masks, social distancing, etc. And that worked out really well, actually. These are safety requirements were pretty compatible.
Yeah, we started the process with Catholic Charities before COVID, and it was a very thorough process. And we adjusted them together with Angela once we found a roommate and the whole COVID situation started.
Yeah, really, what we particularly liked about the process was that we thought that everything Catholic Charities did was very, very professional. We'd worked with another agency in the past and we found that agency to be somewhat non-responsive and didn't really provide much guidance, whereas the living together agreement that we got from Catholic Charities was very, very thorough, and we actually only had a few additions to it. And we found a great template for working together with a new housemate and making sure that there weren't any gaps in communication and ideas for how to live together. What worked very well was a combination of having a website where potential clients or potential housemates could look at the rooms, look at pictures, do some pre-screening on their side. And then, of course, we like the idea of Catholic Charities does screen on their side, and that they also do background checks. Now, with COVID, background checks was somewhat restricted, but I know as a general process, Catholic Charities has to be processed for background checking.
We also liked some get-togethers with potential roommates and house sharers to get to know different kinds of people and to see who we might want to talk to in more detail afterwards.
Yeah, that worked out really well because you get an initial impression of some potential housemates from the get-togethers, both in person, which happened early on in the process, and actually happened in, when COVID was starting. And then we had a Zoom meeting with potential clients that kind of general get-together, which again was very helpful just to get an idea of the personalities. And of course, one of the key things in living together in a house sharing rate is make sure the personalities do work well together. Because in our situation, although our housemate has a separate room, separate bathroom, kitchen facilities and other concepts are obviously shared, and we encounter each other a lot, so of course we want to make sure the personalities work well together.
And general advice is communications. That's a key issue for living together closely. Tell each other small little things and communicate if something changes or if you need to do something differently or something that bothers you.
Yeah, we found that to be occasionally a challenge, that people are reluctant to say something because they think it's a criticism. But everyone who lives in a house together, in a house sharing arrangement, has needs. And it's really, really important to express those needs, even if there's some small things. Because small issues can easily escalate and become bigger issues. Another issue that we found can be a problem is when there's cultural disconnect, when people are different culture living together. It's very, very easy to have misunderstanding because words are interpreted differently, actions are interpreted differently. So there, where you've got a mix of cultures, it's even more important that people are willing to step forward and say, hey, something you said last night bothered me, can you explain what you meant? Or it bothers me when there's noise, 8 o'clock in the morning because I have to work later, or things like that. It's very, very important to talk about that, or cleanliness in the kitchen, ties in the household. All those little things could escalate if people don't talk about it. But in general, we've had pretty good experiences, with few exceptions. Otherwise, I think we'd highly encourage people to do more house sharing. Our children have left the house, so we have a spare room. We have got extra accommodation available. And we feel that with in this era where rents are really high, there's a lot of homelessness, I think it's a great opportunity to serve the community. It also helps us because we've got another person in the house, and for traveling, it's nice to have a house sitter who can maybe keep an eye on the chickens and just keep an eye on things. Never a bad thing. So it works both ways. Good for the house sharer and for the potential housemate.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to thank them again, Tony and Helen. They were able to send this actually while they were in Europe currently, so thanks so much. And then luckily, we were able to have Vivian and Bruce with us today. And thank you guys both again for participating in our panel.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure.
And we've been doing this for, it looks like 2 years now.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's been a while. And then how did you get into house sharing in general?
Well, our children were all grown in and moved out of state. So we were often traveling, and we wanted somebody that could take care of our house and our cat. And also at that time, there was a lot of publicity about how difficult it is for people that were couch surfing or, didn't have any housing at all. And so we felt like we could help. And that's how we got in it.
And then how has your experience been with the program pre and post-COVID?
Well, we were actually traveling when it hit.
Oh, wow.
So we weren't even here. We had to come back or we would have had to become Australians.
But it's worked great. Elaine, our housemate, she was working the entire time. So she was working as a temp for various agencies that needed help. And she was very careful to mask and to wear, wash up when she came and went. We certainly could have been exposed to it, but she chose jobs where there was minimal exposure. She would have her own office or, various other safety requirements that she had. And honestly, it was a blessing that she was here, because when we got back, we had to quarantine for 2 weeks, but yet we had someone who could go buy groceries for us. And also she was sheltering in place for probably a month and a half or two before she could work. And I have a joke that's what kept our marriage together. Like having a friend come and visit. And, we did puzzles, we went on a bike ride, and we went on hikes, and, a
lot of yard work.
She helps us in our yard. It, worked out great. So, we feel that it was highly successful for us. She still lives with us, by the way, and we're really proud because she just got a permanent job and she'll be starting any day as soon as she gets her background check finished.
Oh, well, congrats to her.
Yeah.
Really happy about that. And then what are your thoughts on the overall process of finding and matching with the housemate through the program?
Well, originally we thought it was maybe a little bit too much, things you went through, there was pages and pages of forms, but I think looking back on it, I think it really helps make it successful because it sets all the expectations and there's very few surprises. So I think it was worthwhile. It may have taken a couple of days longer, but I think the whole process was worth it. Our daughter also rents out a part of her house where she lives, and she didn't have anything so specific, and she just had to kind of go by gut feel, and she had some roommates that were maybe less than ideal.
The other advantage of the process is I felt that it was really safe. That we would end up with somebody who's had a background check. She's been interviewed multiple times. Her caseworker was able to understand what her needs were. You were able to understand what our needs were, and you got us together. And I felt like I wasn't being matched with someone who, when we came back from our next trip, I would discover my house had been emptied out.
Or just dirty.
Or dirty, yeah. My big thing was when I come back, I don't want to clean up somebody else's dishes, right? So, but she has been perfect. And we were worried in the beginning that maybe she was planning to move out after 6 months, and we're going, please don't move. And now she has her mail delivered here, so I'm sure she's feeling secure that this is a safe place for her to be, and we're not going to kick her out. And we get along very well together, and we gave a reduced rate on the rent because we felt like the skills she was providing to us were valuable to us. And so
in fact, we save more money from the things she does for us than what she pays us.
Yeah. So we feel like the process is excellent, and I can't think of anything I would do differently to improve it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And then you did bring up the point of being safe. And that's something that we do try to aim for. We want to make sure both parties are safe. So the seeker, the renter, as well as the home providers.
Mm-hmm.
And then, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience here who might be thinking about house sharing?
I think all the forms we filled out and all the interviews that we had and the visits coming here, and really you helped clarify when she came to visit with her caseworker. The two of you helped clarify to her what our expectations were and help us to understand. We wanted whoever came to feel like it was their home too. Mm-hmm. So we share, she has her own bedroom. She has her own bathroom, except if we have company, then she shares it. And she's welcome to use any other part of the house or the yard. We share the laundry room, the kitchen, whatever. And so in return, she mows our lawn when we're not here. When we've been out of town, she checks our irrigation system and has contacted us directly when there's been a problem with it. And she's actually been able to repair it a couple times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're impressed. And she feeds our cat. And when we come home, the house looks just like it looked when I left, sometimes better. So I feel that the most important thing you can do if you're wanting to share your home is to be very honest when you're going through the interview process and filling out the forms. Don't just say, oh, this is taking me a long time, and just, put any answer. Really think about what your expectations would be if somebody came and lived here. And the second advice would be, if you know someone who is sharing their home or apartment with someone, even if it's not through home sharing, maybe they just have a roommate, is to ask their advice. We asked our daughter, and she told me, Mom, you're going to have to learn to shut your mouth. And so I worked really hard of, not saying anything and not trying to direct our housemate to do this or to do that. Just let her have her own life. And I guess it's been successful because she's still here. So.
And for 2 years.
Yeah, after 2 years, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, both of you. And I'm really glad to hear that it's going perfectly well. Both parties are extremely happy and grateful.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. And thanks for all your help setting that up.
Oh yeah, no worries about it. And then we also, as an added bonus, have a quick 30-second snippet of our testimonial video, which includes more of our matched clients. We do have the full video on our website if you wish to view it later.
Home share was in the paper, and I'm, familiar with Catholic Charities. The minute I met my roommate, we just clicked.
So they go far and beyond the call of duty. I would say, yeah, I've been blessed. I'm still being blessed.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to have somebody in the house instead of, just living all by myself. I really do. I love the fact that somebody's here with me.
If we want to be a place that really does maintain some sense of community, where we know one another by first names when we go to the grocery store or the dry cleaner or the gas station, then we're going to need to make a place for people.
And like I mentioned, if we do have the full video on our website, if you do wish to watch more of it. And then that's it for what we have. I'll stop the recording here. If anyone has any questions, you can either raise your hand or write it in the chat if you'd like.
If you don't mind, I want to just share a thought for the folks that are here with us today. The housing crisis is so incredibly severe in this valley, and I am certain that's not news to any of you. But thinking about this as a fairly low bar, Vivian and Bruce mentioned that their kids had left home. That was the same case for myself as well. And there are so many of us who have homes that were large enough to raise children in, and being able to use that space and give that to somebody in need is such a tremendous opportunity for each person as an individual to have an impact on reducing the housing crisis here, whether it's a long-term arrangement or something short-term but long enough to allow the person to save some money, organize whatever they need to do. It is a tremendously important and valuable thing to do. And you're not only giving someone else the opportunity, there's so much personal gratification and growth that comes along with it that it's very, very much a reciprocal arrangement. So I would encourage folks, long-term, short-term, or medium-term, to give this some serious thought.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Supervisor Ellenberg. Greatly appreciated. Like I mentioned, I stopped the sharing, so if anyone has any questions.
I did think of one thing that was difficult for us, and that is we had to give up some space in our refrigerator and a shelf in our pantry to make her feel welcome, that she had a place to put her food. And when you don't have stable housing, you tend to eat food that's prepared, comes in boxes, so it doesn't take up that much space. But as she has become secure in her housing, she's eating healthier foods, fresh fruits and produce and whole grains. And so now she needs more space in the refrigerator, more space in the pantry, and also she has her own shelf in the freezer now. And we're happy to give it to her because it means she's living a healthier lifestyle. But it was tricky for us to learn to share that.
There's a question in the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vivian and Bruce, for sharing that. For the Q&A, so the question is this program open for rapid rehousing for clients of agencies in Santa Clara County helping the homeless? So with our program, one of the requirements that we have for our seekers is that they do have an income. It could be either from benefits, part-time jobs, full-time, or if they receive, I know some clients receive help from family members. As long as they can show proof of that, then they're able to join our program. More questions? I'll share. And like I said earlier, if you want, you can also email us those questions and we'll make sure to get back to you. And I know someone in the chat asked if the recording will be available for us after, so you don't have to take too many notes. It will be, from my understanding, we will be having it available. I'll talk to Angela first, and then we'll send it. And then thank you to Alejandra for appreciating the testimonies today. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that, everyone just knew about our program, especially from our match clients today. As you can see, many of them had a very good experience. But also, each matching is unique to itself. With our program, we just ask that you tell us what you like, what you dislike, hobbies, what do you do, what type of job you work, and we'll try our best to match.
There's a question about whether undocumented individuals are able to apply, and I assume the answer is yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, because the young woman that lived with us was undocumented.
Yeah, so with our with Catholic Charities, we help people of all different backgrounds. When it comes to the house sharing program, we don't ask for any of those paperwork. The thing that we ask for is just proof of identification, as well as just proof of income. And if you're a homeowner, then just proof of home ownership.
Looks like you've got some questions about the history of the program and where else it might exist. And yes, families are able to apply.
Yes, thank you so much for answering that question and helping out. So
might as well take the easy ones.
So house sharing is actually not a new idea. It's happening all over. I'll answer both these questions at the same time. So there wasn't incident we went to a conference. They're happening in different surrounding counties as well as different states around. So when we first started, I know we had help from HIP Housing, which is a house sharing program in San Mateo County. And I know for other ones, I think there's Contra Costa and maybe, I believe one in San Francisco, maybe. Sorry, I can't think of it on the top of my head.
Are you seeing the questions come in?
Yeah, I just got it right now, I just pulled it up. So the next question is, what does the background check entail? I know from, let's see, the background check, what we do. Before it used to be fingerprinting, but everything kind of changed. So we're doing kind of the name search. I know from what last 10 years, no major felonies such as violence, violence, sexual harassment, and then drug felony charges.
And it's on both sides as well. I had to, everyone in my house had to have a background check and be fingerprinted, or use the fingerprint thing for a background check. And that included my daughter, who was only home for a portion of the time. So I appreciated the care that was taken on both sides as to who was coming into my home and peace of mind for the young woman coming in who she's going to live with.
Yeah, exactly what they said is that's something that we do for the background check. So not only is it for the clients of the home provider and the seeker, also anyone who comes in and out of the home. Like I mentioned earlier, we do try to emphasize like safety. We want to make sure that both parties are feeling comfortable and that they both feel like it is a home.
Mm-hmm. And the time limit is up to the partnership. The house owner and house sharer can determine what amount of time the relationship will be, and you do a regular lease with time limits and opportunities, if desired, to extend them. For me, I knew that I wanted short term, so a student was a really good fit for me as well, because students often are only looking for short-term housing, a semester, a year, or possibly a little bit longer. But I would encourage people that maybe aren't ready to dive in long-term to think about a student with a shortened time horizon.
Yeah, exactly what Supervisor Ellenberg said. It depends on both parties. What we try to do on the matching is if we have a provider who's looking for short-term and a seeker that's looking for short-term, then that's a great thing for them to match with. If it is long-term, then that's what we look for. It's completely based off what both parties are looking for. And then back to the background check of what it entailed. It's the county records for the national database. So we do also look at the sex offender database, just to let everybody know. The next question is, what is the price range for the rent? So something that we do ask if our clients can pay a minimum of $750. It does range from maybe as low as like $750 up to more than $1,000. It just depends on a variety of things. Obviously, location wise, if they're looking for private bathroom or not. As of right now, our average rent is currently $900.
And again, might be different with students who have potentially less access to income, and the house sharing program was able to work with us to negotiate significantly lower than the traditional minimum. And I don't know if that's now become a policy if it's students or transitional age youth.
That's something that we do talk about. Like for Vivian and Bruce, they did lower their amount, and their seeker helped around the home, as well as Tony and Hella, who mentioned their chickens. So she takes care of them while they're gone.
How long does it take? It took us about 3 months, I think, from the initial, maybe 4 months, from the initial, okay, we'd like to do this, to filling out all the forms, doing the background check, meeting the prospective person. Is that typical? Is 3 months about right? Or was that long or short?
Yeah, I would say typically a few months. It's just depending, like, if you like the person or not. That's why we do say that this isn't emergency housing. It is a process that does take a while. And then the next question is, does Catholic Charities take referrals from other agencies? Yes, we do. I'll put up a slide of our main contact. You're able to either give us a call, and then you can, if we don't answer, you can leave voicemail and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Our program assistant, Daisy, is the one who pre-screens everybody. Let's see.
Those next ones are definitely yours.
Yeah. Okay, so is the income requirement in addition to rental subsidy being provided under a housing program? So I'm assuming this question is if you're in a program that's already helping you pay rent. If you have proof of that, that would definitely help. You would just have to talk to your housing specialist about that, and make sure to, like I mentioned, provide proof of that. The next question is, how many seekers are placed each year? I don't really have an exact number. We just try our best to work with everybody. Our program is open. I'm sorry about that, unfortunately. We did have low matches in 2020. That's just because, with everything that did happen, but we're back and we're running up again. We did have 36 matches in 2019 though. Let's see. Is the program open in other counties? Our program helps out with Santa Clara County. So if you have someone that's looking, that's living outside of this county looking to move here, that is okay. I've had clients where they're moving into the state. If you're asking about there's other programs around the surrounding counties, then I would suggest maybe reaching out to them. But I do know there are other house sharing programs surrounding our county.
Catholic Charities not only does not charge for the program, but offers a stipend after either 30 or 90 days. I think they sent a check to us for, I think, $250, which I honestly felt was entirely unnecessary. And I'm curious to know if other people, if you know, have given it back as well or declined that check. I would rather the money be used in other ways by Catholic Charities. But it's very nice. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but it was wholly unnecessary, I thought.
Yeah, so we did have the stipend amount of $200, but that unfortunately expired in June 2020. But we did have several times providers wanted to redistribute the stipend amount. They had kind of similar feelings that they, were already helping the person out and they didn't feel the money was necessary. I even had a client who yeah, they were just no, to send it back. So yeah, you weren't the, yeah, there's a lot of helpful people out there. These are great questions, by the way. Thank you so much.
And we're all caught up on them.
And is there any more questions? Let me take a look at the chat box.
Nothing else in the chat.
All right.
We must have been very thorough.
Who can we contact for the recording? What I know right now is myself and Angela will be following up. So I will follow up with her. Like I mentioned, she was virtually out. So I will follow up with her about the recording and what we plan to do. She will be sending it out next week though. Thank you for your patience. Any other questions? And then thank you so much for sharing the presentation, Alondra.
All right, if that's it, I am going to head off. Thank you for the program. Thanks for everybody that joined to listen, and I hope that you will all consider sharing your home, short-term, midterm, or long-term. And Vivian and Bruce, very nice to meet you both.
And thank you again for attending and sharing your stories as well as your input. Thank you again, Supervisor Ellenberg. And then thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. While house sharing may not be for everyone, make sure to let your family, your friends, and your neighbors know. And then I'd like to thank again Silicon Valley at Home for letting us participate in their Housing Month. I did send in their calendar link earlier. I can send it again for those who are interested in attending more of their exciting events. Here you go. And if there's no more questions, well, actually, hold on. Like I said, thank you so much everyone for attending, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and make sure to check out the rest of those interesting events at Silicon Valley at Home. Thank you.